Right then, before I get stuck into today's preview, we have got some bets coming a little bit later on, so stay tuned for those. You can check out the chapters at the bottom of the video to see when exactly that is. But let's get stuck into the preview. Yes, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Manchester United, Nottingham Forest. Let's get a bit more positivity back in the mix. Let's get 3 points on the board and try and get a little bit of momentum going into that Arsenal game, where I will take a draw. I'm going to set that out right now. I will take a draw on the road against Arsenal because you want to beat them at home and then not lose away. That's how you deal with playing the big games. But we have to get through this match first. And this isn't going to be as straightforward as people assume it will be. This is going to be a little bit more of a challenge. And we are going to have to fix some of the issues that we've seen in the first couple of games. I'm going to tell you how we can do that and what we should expect from this Nottingham Forest side. So let's get into it. United come into it on the back of one win and one dreadful loss against Tottenham. Dreadful that's the word, right? Let's just call it that. Forest's second consecutive season in the Premier League since they've been promoted on this occasion, and they're in a similar form to us. They lost to Arsenal and then they beat Sheffield United last Friday. Having recently signed Elanga, it'd be really interesting to see his return to Old Trafford. He looks like he's done well so far, and he does definitely fit what Cooper's trying to do in terms of the system. Last 5 games against Forest, we've won all 5, and looking good for doing that again, I think, this weekend. How do they play? Well, they got quite a distinct style of play, actually, and it's very interesting to see how their many signings last season tried to adapt to what Steve Cooper was trying to do with his setup. Moving from the Championship can go one of a couple of ways for clubs, and I think for some success in terms of staying up, you have to adapt your game. I think that the teams that try and play the same way more often than not struggle, and I think Cooper managed to adapt what Forest did quite well. They play a ferocious style of football. They're not really too possession heavy with it. They have a bit of a balanced style of play. Jimmy Garner was a big part in helping them get promoted, being quite a direct midfielder, but one that was also getting forward and helping them score in the final third. And they've not really altered from last season. They're still quite direct, and it should work for them. It should be enough for keeping them up, I think. I think they'll be in the bottom third of the table, but they should stay up. Offensively, they look like they've leveled up on the ball than in previous seasons, and they do have some quality players. And Cooper last season had to experiment a little bit, started to switch things up. They go with a 3-4-3, one of the there's many reasons for that. One of the main reasons, it allows them to sort of shut off opposition attacks while being able to quickly get into a counter attack themselves, due to opposition allowing players to step forward. They leave 3 high to be able to transition, and they try and defend with that 7. Now, I think they're going to look to try and evolve beyond being a counter attack inside, though, with the team being a bit more confident in possession. And maybe play a little bit more how they used to play when they was in the Championship, where they're able to get men forward and start putting pressure on the opposition rather than the relying just on raw pace and 1 or 2 men getting forward. Fullbacks are massively key to how this Nottingham Forest side plays, vital in the offence and the defensive effort. Prior to this season, 78% of all Forest attacks originated from their fullbacks, to sort of illustrate just how important fullbacks are to the way Nottingham Forest play. Aurier and Neco Williams both drive up and join as part of midfield, and they often find themselves higher up where they get control of the ball in really, really advanced areas as well. There's been a massive emphasis put on crossing because of this, and Aurier finds success playing early crosses to Awonye against Sheffield United. Gibbs, White and Johnson are then allowed to roam, link up with the players that are around them, especially in the transition, which sees Johnson use his pace to progress play. And he was a problem for us last season. Defensively, as we said, Forest did find a lot of success with a low block, and a lot of success in the relegation battle last year can be attributed to just how good they were at denying space and frustrating opposition. Essentially, out of possession, Forest kind of go into a 5-3-2. Players have got extreme confidence in their defensive switches and their ability to be able to lock off and deny space to opposition. One central midfielder will act as a box-to-box midfielder while the other central midfielder hangs back a bit like a deep-lying playmaker or a bit of a destroyer and just sort of gets in the way and tracks like opposition midfielders as they run in beyond into the back line. As we said, in offense, in defense, the fullbacks are notable because they're bombing up and down the flanks. Sometimes that can be a bit of an area of weakness. If you allow them to reset, they'll join the rest of the defence and they'll form a five. If you can get them at the right time on the transition, they will be high up the pitch and there's a weakness there for you to exploit. Star man, Morgan Gibbs-White. Since joining from Wolves last season, he has been undoubtedly the star man for Nottingham Forest. Very versatile, very tricky player. Featured in midfield, up front, and more recently on the left wing as well. Causes so many problems for teams, and he's actually began to form a real exceptional partnership with a 1 year as well. Overall, I think it was him, or left to him, to play the sensational through balls, and teammates seem to trust him to do that, which makes for a dangerous combination when a team is trying to play with like a little bit of risk. In terms of the United starting 11, I've rewritten this so many times. The back five is quite straightforward. The back six actually straightforward from Onana through to Casemiro. So Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Martinez, Shaw, Casemiro. They've all got levels and gears to go through in their game, but we need to see them do that. Who partners Casemiro? I've wrote McTominay, I've wrote Bruno, I've wrote McTominay again, I've wrote Bruno again, and I'm settling on McTominay. And I don't think at home you want to play this. Actually, we're not playing it. I'm playing Eriksen, fuck it. I'm going Eriksen alongside Casemiro because I think this is a game that we're going to want to hold the ball and we're not going to get overrun in midfield, I don't think, on this one. So it is going to be Eriksen. Bruno in front of them. I am playing Sancho. And I'd love to say off the right-hand side, but he's going to be playing as a false nine. And that means Anthony's going to play on the right-hand side, who I think actually deserves to be dropped. Rashford on the left. The other option that we've got available to us is Anthony Martial starts, and you can play Sancho off the right-hand side, and you can play Rashford on the left. And I think that would be a far better attack. If Anthony Martial is fit, and I know that that is a constantly evolving state, and usually the answer is no. Anthony Martial is fit, you play him, you get Sancho on the right-hand side, and this Manchester United team would start to click. You just can't trust Anthony Martial to be fit. And I think Anthony needs taken out of the team for a couple of weeks, actually. Starman for Manchester United would be Marcus Rashford, and I think it's time for Marcus to step up now. Energised home crowd, everyone in there behind him, back in his favourite position. We know what he is capable of. Let's see it, because this team has really struggled. And Forest struggle with pacey attackers, especially out wide, because the fullbacks are going to get caught higher up. So if you can get in behind, you've got an opportunity. And Aurier being like their main crossing sort of outlet, allow him to have the ball, allow him to get his head up, and then transition into Marcus Rashford in that space, in behind, and watch what happens. Manchester United can win this game quite comfortably. Now, as I said at the top of the show, we have got some bets for you. My exclusive bet boost from our friends at Parimatch UK for this Premier League game between United and Nottingham Forest is as follows. I have gone for United to win. Why? Because I'm a homer, right? And I'm going to back United to win. I also think that there's a very strong chance that United do manage to get the job done. And even though our performances have been poor of late, we are still more than good enough to beat Nottingham Forest at home. And if we're not, it's time to panic. I am going for both teams to score, partially because I think it's better odds than if it was just going to be United to win into nil. I think United are capable of nilling them, but I think we're also not playing well as well. So I think there's good value in both teams to score in this one. And I'm going for Rashford to score first. Why? Well, I've just told you why. Aurier gets high. Marcus is going to find himself in space. And Marcus isn't a winger that's looking to create for others. He's going for himself, and he'll probably get in on the score sheet. So this bet has been boosted from 10 to 1 to 12 to 1. So if you fancy that, go and get in the mix. Now, this isn't your average bet. This is my personal bet, exclusively available through Parimatch UK. So whether you're a diehard United fan, someone that just loves a beautiful game, you can now back my selections for the big match at a boosted price. That's what's important here. It's not a price that I've just found on some random website. This is my boosted price. They do this just for my bets. And if you're feeling the excitement like I am, you can back my bet boost for this Premier League match. And all you need to do that is follow the link that is in the description. It is as simple as that. So there you have it. That is my exclusive bet from Parimatch UK for the United versus Nottingham Forest game. Go and check it out. Please make sure you're over 18 and in the UK. Right then, to wrap it up, how do Manchester United beat Nottingham Forest? Number one, sharpness. You've got to be sharp because this Nottingham Forest team are going to come to compete and we can't let ourselves get caught up in the issue of not being sharp enough. I also think it's very important that we improve upon the last couple of games where sharpness hasn't really been a thing. I thought there was times against Wolves that United looked fine and then we looked a little bit laboured. And there was times against Spurs where we looked fine and we were creating chances, but the sharpness wasn't quite there. The clinical Manchester United wasn't quite there. We can get a result here 100%. It has to be a better team performance. And that starts in the midfield. The midfield has been missing this season. I would say missing a game, but missing is actually what it's been. And you can't win games without a solid midfield. And maybe it's going back to a little bit of what we had last season with Bruno, Eriksen, and Casemiro, and maybe it's the tried and tested that works. The lads know the role. We know we're capable of winning games, and maybe that helps us click into gear. And against the team against Forest, where a low block is not just likely, but almost essential to how they're going to play, having someone like Eriksen to move the ball left and right, leaving Casemiro to be able to just mop up anything as they're getting on the transition, I think he's going to be good. I can see this being a game where the likes of Bruno and Eriksen actually can get on the ball. They can free themselves from man marking. They can drift right and left a little bit. They can get on and potentially even get some shots off as well if the forward movement is good. And then finally, decision making. It's been so bad recently, the decision making. And I think Anthony and Garnacho are two of the biggest culprits. Marcus barely escapes with this, but he just escapes from this because he's been playing out of position. The other two, their decision making has been awful, and Bruno's as well, but captain do get special privileges. Now, if we're going to be back to our best, we have to make better decisions. We have to be clinical and we have to make better decisions. And I'm not sure if he will go and drop Garnacho or go with Sancho or drop Anthony, but he should. Whoever is selected has got the opportunity to start putting a marker down for the season, because the season will kick into gear. Stop reading all the nonsense in the press. United are not in the sort of crisis that they're going to have you believe. We can do some damage to this Forest team. We have it in us, and that would be a hell of a way to get some momentum ahead of the Arsenal game, which is a huge game, I think, early in the season. United need to win this game. I also think we will win this game. And I think if our season is going to kickstart, it's imperative that we do that. And if the Spurs game's anything to go off, the away form is going to be about as bad as it was last year. You got to get flawless at home. I think we're capable of getting flawless at home, to be fair. I think people are nervous, but I've got a lot of faith. I think United get the job done. We are more than good enough to turn over the likes of Nottingham Forest at home. So let's just go get the job done. Check out my bet from Parimatch UK. The link is in the description as long as you're 18 and in the UK. And I will see you after the game. Let's hope it's a good one. See you in a bit. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.